Hello, our SamuRais, and welcome to lesson 3. Now, this is technically a remake of lesson 3. I noticed that lesson 3 had some issues with the screen, with the screen capture, and I was not very happy how the content ended up looking at. I'll try to keep this one much shorter, right? The original lesson 3 was around 50 minutes long, but I'll try to compress that. We learn how to make things shorter, so I'll try to make it much shorter this time. In this lesson, we'll be covering the pipe operator, arrange, filter, select, and rename functions, which I already kind of have here, right? So we'll be doing that in this lesson. I will keep. I won't be typing too much because we already have this content over here, and this is a remake of lesson 3 because of how it was. Hopefully, with me not typing, we'll keep straight into what matters, right? And you can probably type all the rest information by yourself. So let's get to it. So first thing is the pipe operator. What is the pipe operator? The pipe operator is this one. And the pipe operator, it says here, unexpected special in, yes, it's fine because we haven't loaded any of the libraries. We'll be doing those loading of libraries very soon. Right, so let's first load those libraries. Let's load the file we have created from last time, right, where we have all these columns. We can actually look at that information here. And it contains this number, letters, type, value, and word. You can create a CSV file like this in Excel, and then you can just save it as a CSV, name it book 1, and load it by yourself. So going back to the pipe operator. The pipe operator, you can see in the console. Oops, sorry about that. If you can see in the console is this operator. So every time I talk about the pipe, I'll be talking about this particular operator. So in future courses, whenever I say pipe this, pipe that, I'm referring to this particular operator. It comes from the magrittr, I think magrittr package, and it's a very useful operator. There's also the base R pipe operator, which is this one. This one I will not be using that often. The magrittr pipe is much more powerful than the base pipe operator from R, so I won't be using this one. I'll be using this one in all the classes that we have. And the pipe operator, I also like to call it the then operator, right? It basically allows you to take a data frame, for example. In this case, let me remove the comment. By the way, you can comment and uncomment stuff on Mac by using Command Shift C. You proceed again, you can uncomment stuff. On Windows, I think it might be Windows Shift C or Control Shift C, I guess. Make sure to check that out. So the pipe operator, you can pass it anything you want. In this case, I'm passing a data frame, and then I'm gonna say, hey, take this data frame, then do something with it, right? And that's basically its work. It'll pass data along different functions, and this is very fundamental because we'll be using this to pipe different instructions and continue to modify your data frame. You can already see a little bit of how that looks like in here. You can see that I'm piping data, then I'm doing different operations. I have several of them commented out, but we'll look example by example about those. So first we'll do data 1, right? We're gonna call this data 1. We're gonna be assigning first data frame that we had loaded previously using our read CSV function. Then we're gonna do a pipe and do some operation to it. We're gonna be doing a filter. And what does filter do? Well, if you remember, you can always look into what functions do. And filter is from the dplyr package, and we can see that it says keeps row that match a condition. So from our previous class, you remember our operational conditions, right? So we'll be using those operators for working with things here on with the filter. So I'm gonna uncomment this. I'm gonna remove the pipe at the end because I don't want it to execute that operation. And then here we have first data 1, first data frame, filter type X. So it'll give me basically from data frame, it'll just filter type X, which I told it to be equal type X. Now a very common mistake is not to use equal, but to use just equal X. If we do this, it'll give you an error. It'll tell you, hey, you know, this usually means that you've used equal instead of equal, right? So if you see this error, then you know that for sure you should be using equal, and then it should be working. So that's how you can use filter there to just look at records that start, or not start, but that have an X in data. Filter can also be used to have, let's say, multiple conditions, right? So we're gonna be commenting this one out, and we can also say, for example, filter letters equal A, or letters equal J. If we execute this, we will have only letters A and J as we selected. Now there's another way of doing this much simpler, and that's covered in the next lesson, lesson 4. Unfortunately, lesson 4, I also noticed that the video is a bit too small, so I'll have to redo that one. But I'll explain it anyway in lesson 4. Once I redo that, actually you can see a little bit of over here you see a little bit of what I'm talking about. So I'm gonna just hide it up a little bit. So you can also use more complicated conditions with some logical operators there in how you want to use this particular filter. So I'm gonna comment this one out, and then I'm gonna uncomment this and go back to let's go to the next function actually, because filter, there's nothing else to it, right? You type the name of a variable, you make it equal in the case of a string that you're looking for. In this case, I was looking for type X or Y, and then that's it. You can also use other conditions, such as filter everything that's let's say greater than 30. So how would that look like? Let me comment that out. Filter value greater than 30, greater or equal to 30, and then we will see only greater or equal to 30. So you can also do that. I'm gonna be deleting that, and then we're gonna be moving to select. So what does the select function do? We type select here. It says keep or drop columns using their names and types. So here, if we say, for example, data my first data frame pipe, that means that we're taking the data set my first data frame, then we're passing it down to the select function, and then the select function knows that we're already talking about my first data frame, right? So if we tell it to keep just number and letters, it'll just do that. We should no longer see the rest. We should see in data 1 only numbers and letters, and that's what select does. But select has other interesting uses. You can also use it to rearrange data. So you have here number, letters, type, value, word in the original data frame, and we can have that just be rearranged to first be letters and then numbers. So now we have letters, numbers. You see we had it different here. Letters, number, and originally it was number and letters. So that's a very interesting thing you can use with select. You can rearrange things. Besides rearranging things, you can also, and I don't recommend that you do this, you can also select by the index of the column of that variable, right? Remember, in R, variables are columns. And you can just call 1, 3, 4, 2 or any order that you want for those variables, right? So let's see how that looks like. And then we have rearranged 1, 3, 4, 2. So 1 was number, which is still 1. Then we had 3, which is type. So type is next, so 1, 3, 4, 2. Now, why don't I recommend selecting by index? Well, if you select by index, you're basically hoping that your data is always arranged in the same way. Let's say that you receive downloaded data from a database or from an Excel file, and you're basically hoping that it's always gonna be in the same order. Now, things can happen, of course. Things could change, and people may or may not tell you. And it's better to just call things or the variables or columns by their name. That way, if the name changes, you'll get an error saying, hey, this column doesn't exist, right? But if you choose the index, unless that index doesn't exist, then you won't really get an error, and you could be making some very grave mistake. For example, if we say letter like this, it tells me that letter doesn't exist, which means that I mistyped. So I just can type these letters again here, and then it should be fine. Now, after this one, we can go to another way in which you can select. So besides being able to rearrange columns and dropping columns, you can also select in different ways. For example, here we're choosing to select value first. So value will be coming first, and then we're choosing to say, hey, then select number all the way to type. Right, so let's see how that works. I'm gonna delete the pipe so it doesn't go anything else. And then let's look data 1. We have value first, then number, letters, type. Number, letters, type. Right, so that's another way in which you can quickly select just by using the column. Right, so you can just use that if you don't want to type each and every single column, because that would be very, very slow. If you have, let's say, 50, 60 variables, that's not something you would like to do. So you can just take this quick and nifty shortcut. Going on to one of our next functions, we have rename. We have rename. And what does rename do? Let's quickly look it up. Rename, it says, changes the name of individual variables using new name equal old name syntax. And this is important because I always forget this. I always end up doing it the other way, putting the old name and then the new name. And this will give you an error. Let's see how that error looks like, so that you're not surprised if you ever head into it. By the way, if you by any reason end up having another pipe at the end, like this, well, here it tells you we did a mistake, right? But if you end up having something like this, you might end up having another plus sign somewhere. Actually, let me remove this very quickly. So if I do this, it has a plus sign here saying that, hey, I'm still awaiting another instruction. So if you end up having a pipe and there's no other code, it'll keep waiting until you provide something else or until you press escape. In this case, we're not going to provide anything else. So I'm just going to press escape to exit that. I'm gonna undo what I did so that we can have it. So type, if we do it like this, we have currently that type, that's actually the old name type, and it says that we need to provide new name and old name. Here I'm gonna make a mistake on purpose, and it's gonna tell me that, hey, can't rename columns that don't exist. It says it doesn't exist. You're gonna be like, oh wait, but type is there. Yes, type is there. But the thing is, it was expecting new name and then equal old name. So that's why it's saying that, hey, it doesn't exist, because the old name is actually type with a capital T, and that definitely doesn't exist here. So let's fix it. And now it should definitely work. Now we have type with a capital T. And that's it. There's nothing else to rename and type. I mean, rename function. You can just use it to change the name of your existing variables if you're not happy with them. Very, very useful function. Then we have the arrange function. And with the arrange function, we can, of course, arrange our variables, and we can arrange them by any number of variables. So here in this example, I already have descending, but let's not go that far. You can arrange it by any number of variables, and each layer that you add will be arranged after the other one, right? So first we start with value, then it'll arrange by number, and then it'll arrange by type. You can also choose to just say, hey, just arrange by value, right? And here it's already arranged by value. You see that it's original, it was all messed up. Now we have 0, 5, 10, 15, 30, 35, 40, 45, and A's. Let's undo things. Let's arrange now by value, number, and type. Once we do that and execute this code, we'll have 0, 5 again, right? But then this time it's actually arranging by value, then the number, and then the type. So it goes by the value, the number, see, and then the type. So you can get or create many interesting ways of arranging the data. You can also choose to arrange descending. In case you're not happy with having this from 0 to 45, you can just say like, okay, I want to have it this descending, and let's see how it, oops, let's see how, oh. Actually, yeah, there you go. Now it'll be descending. So instead of being ascending like we had it before from 0 all the way to 45, now it's basically descending. So you can also do that with numerical values. So arrange, yeah, very, very interesting function to use. You can use it to arrange your data by any number of variables that you want. Remember, variables are columns in our data set, in our data frame, and yeah, you can do any arrangement that you want. And yeah, I think basically that's it. Of course, this lesson is much shorter than the previous one. I tried to keep it much more condensed. I didn't have to type. I provided a little bit less of information, I think, that from the previous one, but still tried to keep the gist of it. I apologize for the other version, right? I should have been a little bit more careful when I was doing the setup for the capture, for the live streaming. I wasn't. I hope you enjoyed this remade class. Try to make it much shorter, much more to the point, with much less typing. And yeah, I'll see you in the next class. Here you will see some examples. All right, and let me quickly check that. Here you see some examples for other ways of select that we kind of briefly covered, and some other conditions. I ask you to please play with it, right? You have it here on screen. You have the data. Try to play with that. Try to see what different data tables you end up with those conditions, and I'll see you in the next class. So again, if you enjoyed this class, if you enjoyed the work that I do, please remember to like and subscribe. It would mean a lot to me. And if you like the classes, please remember also to tell your friends. And that's it. I'll see you next time. So see you next time, SamuRai. Class dismissed. You see that here.